Good morning, everybody, once again. Today we're going into SD 43.5, Chapter 5 of Volume 43, Sutta Discovery, Parihana Sutta, which means the discourse on the waning. Waning, that means decreasing. Opposite of progress, decline. And this is taken from Anguttara A 10.55, the book of tens. That means there are 10 items here. And this sutta is about learning the Dharma for self-mastery. Now this theme, of course, is quite familiar, right? Self-reliance, self-understanding, self-mastery. And this is something very special about Buddhism, even unique about Buddhism. Buddhism teaches us to begin at home, right inside us, to understand ourselves. In fact, when we say the word self, already begins there. What is the self you mean? Other religions tell us the self is some kind of external, imagined reality that is eternal, etc. Right? It's very hard to really prove such an existence, and it's not very useful because it doesn't exist. The Buddha rejects the idea of a permanent self, the Atman, for that simple reason. It doesn't exist. See, one of the big problems with religion is they immediately come up with ideas which are fixed. No religion will accept the fact that they actually change over time. In fact, that's what happens in all the religions. Various teachings, even the ideas about the highest being, God, or even Buddha, change over time. It is happening even to Buddhism as a religion. So the question now is, how do we get back to the actual teaching, original teaching? Why do we want the original teaching? Because we want something that really works, not the changes that are introduced in different times in history because of different problems and issues, rivalries, and human weaknesses. Because these teachings are given to us, the Buddhism, the Dharma is given to us by an enlightened being, the Buddha. We want to know exactly what has he taught us. That is why the suttas are very precious to us. Even a few centuries ago, the great philosophers of Europe have noticed this. There was a time when Buddhism started to become more present in Europe, especially in Germany. The Germans were amongst the people who really appreciated and understood Buddhism as a teaching of the mind. In fact, there's one German philosopher by the name of Friedrich Nietzsche. He's one of those really radical philosophers. He had this very great respect for the Buddha. And he's one of those modern philosophers whose language is really powerful and poetic. If you know German, the language is beautiful, but even the translations are beautiful. In fact, his writings are not really prose. Although they're in prose, it's more like poetry, the way he uses words. And you know the Germans have a way with words. They can move the whole nation to even start a world war. But here, the words are used to move people, to change the world. Nietzsche is one of those people who understand the nature of religion and who, in a way, is very terrified of Christianity. He is so worried what Christianity can do to the world. And this is not surprising because in the 15th century, Rome was at its greatest power and fear by everyone. And Rome the Pope actually divided the world between the Portuguese and the Spaniards for them to conquer, to convert. Because we are lesser beings. We're not even human yet, because we're not Christians. So, and of course, there was a lot of bad stuff going on in Rome. Wherever there's power, there's corruption. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So among those people who really opposed Rome were the Germans. Remember Martin Luther was there, right? So, coming back to Nietzsche, he was kind of very moved by Buddhism. So in his book called The Antichrist, here I use the term Antichrist because he's saying that you've got to have something opposite to the idea of Christianity. He introduced a word called transvaluation. My understanding, rightly or wrongly, it means the value is transformed, is changed. The values which are good have been changed by religion. Okay? So, he was criticizing Christianity. He says that the Christians, they deal with sin, whereas Buddhism deals with suffering. Which you think is better? See, these great philosophers have a way of putting things very simple, and you see, yeah, that's very clear. A religion that struggles with sin and a religion that struggles with suffering, which is more real? Very simple question. Sin is defined by some authority. Suffering, you yourself know it. You don't need to be defined for anyone. You know it. In that sense, Buddhism is a natural religion. And then Nietzsche goes on to say, Christianity makes 1,000 promises but never fulfill a single one. It's very powerful in his language. But Buddhism tells you rely on yourself. Isn't that more practical? I mean, it's amazing for someone living in the 19th century. He was born in 1844 and died in 1900. So before the 20th century, he already is talking like this. It's amazing. Right? So, the idea that the Buddha is teaching us self-reliance is very important. And now you can see this idea is catching on again. So in a sense, we are fortunate in our lifetime we can see this new development, and the Westerners, the intelligent and really spiritual people are beginning to know Buddhism very much more than one generation ago. So what next, you might ask? It's very interesting as we watch this development. So now we are going back to the teachings that gave them all these wonderful ideas of self-understanding, self-reliance, self-liberation. Now when we talk about the self here, it's just a term for the mind. So when we say, rely on yourself, I mean, it doesn't make sense, just self. What does it mean? It means the mind. Right? Think it out. Examine, analyze. Plan what to do. Consider it, and then do it. That's the self. So here you can see the Buddha from accepting a fixed imagined external source of power, he has internalized, brought home this idea that all that goodness, all that possibility for change is within you. You can change. You should change. You must change. This is what the Buddha keeps telling us. But if you listen to the other religions, what did they tell you? You can't do it yourself. You are bad. You've got to come to me. But we know they are good. So there you are. It's so clear. That's why the Buddha says, Buddhism is for the wise. Indeed, all good things are for the wise. You need to have wisdom. And this is the other worrying trend in religion. They want you to stop thinking. The moment you join religion, you are told This is the way you must think. You must think within the box. That box is called the church, the temple, whatever. But the Buddha tells us, throw away the box. You can travel more lightly. No? The Buddha says, empty the boat. Okay, throw out all the water, then the boat will sail faster. So in that sense, Buddhism is, when I was speaking, to use the language of Nietzsche, is iconoclastic. In a sense, I'm using this in the figurative sense, Buddhism is self-destructive. In other words, this is the only religion that tells you this is only a method. In order to be truly a Buddhist, you must be able to give up Buddhism at the right time. The problem is a lot of people are giving up Buddhism at the wrong time. They don't even know Buddhism yet. So what is it to give up? You can only give something up when you have it. I mean, just like one of these modern psychologists, he wrote something, a book I think. It says, some people they like to say, "Oh, I'm nothing, I'm nobody." It's not. It is arrogant to say that, because this person said, "You must be somebody before you can be nobody." So if you say, "I'm a nobody," they say, "Wow, that's a grand statement." I mean, then you're making such a big statement that I'm the most important guy in the world. So sometimes we don't realize the things that we say can actually reveals the real nature of us. I met one Buddhist speaker who was very zealous. One day we had a bit of argument. He says, I'm very humble. I'm very humble." Then I say, "Wow, you're very proud about the fact that you're humble." So I say, if people are humble, they don't have to say it. They show it. We don't say we're humble. We show that we're humble. By listening, by being kind, by filling ourselves with loving kindness. So this self, meaning the mind, is a very important concept in Buddhism, because the mind is a learning process. That's one way of looking at it. The mind is a learning process. It is based on change. We must change. If we do not accept change, then we will suffer. So suffering, in other words, means we are going against nature. When you go against nature, there is friction, there is conflict. So you feel uneasy, you feel pain. For example, we have memories about the past, something from the past. When you try to drag something from the past into the present, it is like trying to divert a surging flood. It's very dangerous. Once a flood catches you, sweep you away. So you got to let this river of the past just flow. If you try to bring to the present, there's conflict. That's called suffering. Same thing with the future. You try to bring the future in, future is not yet come. You don't know what kind of future will be. There is conflict. That's another way of understanding suffering. So, if you understand the self, then you understand it means the mind, it means things change, things must change, accept the change, then you are in harmony. You all know I'm doing my translation work, and most translators, they finish a translation, then you have a nice volume published. You are called a published translator. It's a big thing, So then you have your books in the libraries of the world. I have all my books in I can't say all, I have most of my books, because some volumes are missing, I don't know where they went, in my study. But every time I look at those volumes, there are about 50 volumes of Sutta Discovery, I know and I tell myself they are all out of date. They are all out of date. The latest volumes are all in the computer, in bits and bytes. little bits of on and off switches in the computer. It's amazing how the Dharma is stored. In a small little drive, really thumb size. Everything can be stored there. You can carry it as an amulet on your chest if you like. So I told myself, it's amazing. Here I am doing the translation, and by the time I finish, a few weeks later, it's already out of date. That's really a living translation, because you've got to keep going. New materials arise, and then new ideas come in. So in a sense, the Sutta discovery is also a record of my spiritual growth as I explore Buddhism. So sometimes when I translate, sometimes I say, oh yes, I need this passage. I've translated this before, I want to keep it consistent, standard. So I have to look up the hard copy. So I go to the shelf, pick out the volume, but knowing well that volume is already out of date. So I told myself, if my house catches fire, I don't have to bring up those volumes. Let them burn, it doesn't matter. Because the new ones are out there in cyberspace. It's always there. I can just get another computer in a new place or renovated house and then click on the computer. There the Dharma is present again. So you cannot destroy the Dharma. You cannot bring down the Dharma. You cannot hypostatize it. There's a big term here. Some people explain the Bodhisattva as the hypostasis of certain qualities. For example, Kuan Yin is said to be the hypostasis of compassion. Manjushri is the hypostasis of wisdom, right? Like a symbol. So it also means to concretize. You cannot really concretize the Dharma. If you try to concretize the Dharma, make it a thing, you must be prepared it will be destroyed. And if it is destroyed, it's nothing to worry about. Just like when the Bamiyan Buddha was destroyed, a lot of Buddhists were horrified. Of course, it's not a very good thing to do. The people who are the saddest are the artists, the historians. They say, wow, what, this beautiful world, why did they destroy it? You know? But the Taliban were not happy because they were asking for help, money for the poor, but these people who came, they got money, but they said they want to renovate the statue. So these Taliban were not happy because they say, why do you want to use money on this statue when there are hungry, suffering children? So we have a good argument too. So they should have been wise and remember the Buddha's teaching to help the Taliban with all those children and then say, can we renovate the image? And then you would have been born, you know. So we forgot how to be kind to people. We are kind to statues but not to people. That's wrong, right? And that's the Buddhist response. You know? So the mind changes. The self is the mind. We must understand the nature of the mind. Because if we don't, then even when we have the Dharma with us, we are fortunate enough to be born in a place and time where we can be Buddhist, but we still do not know it. Look at the opening page 93. This is from Dhammapada. These are probably the twin verses, I think. Java jiwang piche balo panditan payura pasati naso dhammang vijanati dabbi suparasang yatha. Even if a fool all his life is close to the wise, he understands not the Dharma, just as a spoon that tastes not the soup. Right? So there you are. You use a ladle. Here a spoon also means ladle. The ladle doesn't taste the soup. Right? So we are the spoon. We don't understand what the speaker is talking. We don't practice. Then we are spoons. That's a reflection I wrote on to be spoon-fed or to be self-reliant. Then there is the positive version of this. Muhutama piche vinyu panditan pairu pasati kipang dhammang vijanati jivaha suparasang yatha. Even if the wise for but a moment is close to the wise, You can also translate even if the learned, if you like, for a moment is close to the wise, he quickly understands the Dharma, just as the tongue tastes the soup. Right? So in other words, what does the tongue represent here? It represents when we are open-minded, ready-minded, attentive, and we love the Dharma. So the idea of the self is very important because it refers to the mind. Whatever problems we have is due to the mind. So religion likes to talk about power. So here the Buddha is saying that the real power is when you conquer yourself, not converting others. In fact, if you have the habit of thinking of converting others, it could be a psychological problem, because every time we convert others, we feel that, wow, I have convinced this person, I've converted this person. You have a sense of power. Okay? In other words, you have a need. You have this feeling of a lack of security. It's not very healthy. Because conversion cannot be forced, imposed onto any other person. It's like the durian. In Southeast Asia we have this fruit which is full of thorns and it's got this very strange smell which most non-Asians are not used to. Now this is the king of the fruits, as it's locally called. It's really delicious and can be quite expensive. Now this tree takes about 7 years to mature, and once it starts fruiting, you cannot just pluck this fruit. It would not taste nice. There's only one way you can get the fruit. You have to wait for it to drop by itself. But you're not going to be near the tree when this fruit drops, because it's got sharp thorns all around. Imagine it's like a giant acorn, right? But the thorns are really sharp. So you got to wait somewhere in a safe, under a shed, and you hear it goes thump, there and you have to wait there the whole day and whole night, otherwise someone else might come along and steal this precious fruit. So this this durian is sharp, it's got all kinds of spines, sharp spines also, but inside it's delicious. So the self is in a sense like that too. We may go through a lot of suffering, our roots are in greed, hate, delusion, like the dark waters in which the roots of the lotus grows. But then as we mature, we become kind and beautiful, like the delicious meat of the durian. Those who have taken durian know this. So here we're talking about self-conquest. Okay? And this is what the next 3 verses, I think, 103, 104, 105, from the Dhammapada. Yo sahasang sahasena sangame manuse jino ekancha jaya mattanan sawe sangam majutamang. Even if one were to conquer thousands upon thousands of men in battle, but in conquering just one himself, one indeed is the greatest battle conqueror. Right? So in other words here, the real idea of conquest is not in overcoming, dominating others. Why do you want to dominate others? You notice how wars are started very often because of trivial reasons. The trivial reasons find serious excuses for mass killing of innocents. So here, overcoming yourself, what does that mean? To overcome greed, hate, delusion. It's not easy at all. So if you can, then you have really strengthened yourself Next verse says, Atta have jitang seyo yachayan itara paja atta dantasa pososa nichang sanyata charino. Conquest of oneself is indeed better than conquering other people. Such a person who is self-tamed, whoever lives self-restrained. Okay, then the next verse. Neva deva naga devo nagandaba namaro saha brahmana jitang aparajitang kaira tata rupasa jantuno. No god, nor divine minstrels, nor Mara, the bad one, not even Brahma can turn victory into defeat for such a person. So here, if you have conquered yourself, even the gods cannot have no power over you. Because they were talking about the mind. So you can see all these teachings are telling us you can help yourself. You don't need the priest. You don't need religion even. Okay? So in the case of Buddhism, the Buddha was very honest with us. He says, well, yes, this is the path. This is the Eightfold Path, right? I've just finished writing this article on the Eightfold Path, 136 pages, I think. So, Buddhism is a path. The Buddha's teaching is a path. That means you must walk on it. It is the path of awakening. Better to say that than the path to awakening. If we say it is the path to awakening, that means the path is not very important. Only the destination is important. But here it is the path of awakening because the path itself is the training. As you go through the path in stages, you awaken. So at the end of the path, there's no more awakening to do because you're already fully awakened. That's nirvana. So you don't have to worry what it is. It's just like the light is blown up, that's all. So that's the path of awakening. So if it's a path, you must walk on it. No one else can do it for you. And you do it yourself. And yet, Buddha Gosha goes on to say, there is the path, but no traveler is seen. There is nirvana, but none who enters it. So this is a bit of what we call intentional language. Yeah? So here, what does it mean? There is a path, but no traveler. It means if you are selfish, or if you have grand ideas about yourself, you're going to have a burden. You won't be able to travel. Only when you finally given up the idea about self, all the views, then you enter nirvana. Total freedom. That's the meaning, the path. Okay, so that's a bit of reflection. It's quite a long introduction. But the sutta is quite short and easy. So let's now look at this discourse on the waning, A1055. It starts on page 96. So Sariputta is talking here. Verse 1, page 96, verse 1. There, the Venerable Sariputta addressed the monks, Avuso bhikshus. Also, the monks replied to the Venerable Sariputta in assent. Okay, then comes the main idea, the main thesis. Also, a person is waning parihana by nature. A person is waning by nature. So it is said. Also, a person not waning by nature, a person not waning by nature. So it is said. In what way also has it been said by the Blessed One that a person is waning by nature, and that a person, in what way also is a person said by the Blessed One that is not waning. Okay? Waning is parihana, not waning is aparihana. Okay? Indeed, also, we would come, so the monks reply, says, indeed, also, we would come from afar to learn from the Venerable Sariputta the meaning of this statement. It would be good if the Venerable Sariputta were to explain the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the monks will remember it. So then Sariputta says, okay, in that case, please listen, I will teach you. In what way also has it been said by the Buddha of a person who is waning by nature, declining by nature? Okay, the teaching is very simple here. Here also, a monk can be any one of us. Like while you're sitting here listening to the Dharma, your mind is that of a monk or a nun, if you like. Here also, a monk does not hear the Dharma that he has not heard before. And he forgets the Dharma that he has heard. And as to whatever teachings that have not touched his mind before, he does not attend to them. And so he does not understand what he has not understood. Now, to that extent also, it has been said by the Blessed One that a person is waning by nature. Okay, what does it mean here? Sariputta is the master of wisdom. So he's saying, you've got to study the suttas. Especially people like us. Since we are not monks or nuns, we should, the only way we can really know the Buddha's teaching, really the true teachings, is to look at the suttas. So here, number one, something you have not heard before. We want to hear it, we want to be curious. Here we're talking about the Dharma. And having heard it, we should try our best to remember it. And you know very well it's not easy to remember teachings because there's so many things you have to do once we finish this class, for example. So one way is we keep listening to the same teachings in other variation, different way of approach. And then we read it out ourselves. Every few years we listen to the same sutta so that we understand better and better. Over the last 15 years I've been dealing with some suttas many times. And every time I deal with the sutta again, I have a better understanding of it. It's like knowing someone. The more you meet this person, the more you interact with this person, the better you know this person. Then the next one is those Dharma that have not touched his mind. What does this mean? That means you have thought about it, but you don't understand it. So you must make an effort to reflect on it. Right? Then the next section is the positive person. In what way also has it been said by the Blessed One of a person who is not waning, not declining by nature? Here also, a monk hears the Dharma that he has not heard before, and he does not forget the Dharma he has heard. Right? So make an effort to remember it. So one way to remember it is paying attention in class. Pay full attention when the teacher is talking. But even then, as I said, we can still forget. So if we forget, what do? The best thing, the moment you forget, immediately find out. Now, most of you are very lucky, you can easily email us, you can look up the reference. A lot of people do that. If I forget something, I'll try my best to look up immediately, but sometimes it's very difficult to find the information. So I have a little notebook, I write it down, and then one day I find that reference, that connection, that explanation of the teaching. And then discuss it, teach it, and you understand it better. Okay? Now the next part is a very beautiful part, the highlight of the sutta, section 5. If also a monk who is not skilled in reading another's mind, then also he should train himself thus. I will cultivate in being skillful in reading my own mind. And how also Is a monk skilled in reading his own mind? Okay, so this is actually the highlight of the teaching. So the teaching basically says, you may not be able to read other people's mind, it's okay. Make sure you know how to read your own mind. What does this mean? Make sure you attend to your own mind, examine your own mind, train your own mind, free your own mind. So this is second part of the teaching. The parable of the groomed young person. Also, just as a woman or a man, young, youthful, fond of adorning or grooming himself, would examine his face in the clear and bright mirror or a bowl of clean water to see if there were any dust or blemish on him, and makes an effort to remove it. If we were to see any spot of dust or a blemish, he is as such. So in other words, it looks at his face, very clean, very nice, he's very happy. Okay? So then this young person is ready to go out somewhere. So even so, it is of great benefit for a monk to review his wholesome state thus. Right. So this is how we know our own mind. How do we read our own mind? By asking ourselves 10 questions. Do I often dwell without longing? Notice this is apophatic, that means it's a negative. Do I dwell without longing? Does this state occur in me or not? Right? Have I cleared away my negative desire? If there is any, then I better let it go. Okay? Do I often dwell without ill will? Does this state occur in me or not? Do I often dwell without sloth and torpor? Sleepiness and tiredness in terms of meditation, notice. Does this state occur in me or not? Do I often dwell without restlessness? Does this state occur in me or not? Do I often dwell having overcome doubt? Does this state occur in me or not? So, although this is negative way of using not, the effect is positive. Okay? So here, these first 5 are actually the 5 mental hindrances. So here we clear this away and then you get into jhana, deep meditation. And then you have second set. These are the 10 sets that give the sutta its classification of 10 items. Number 6, do I often dwell without anger? If I have anger, I should get rid of it. Does this state occur in me or not? Do I often dwell without a defiled mind? Does this state occur in me or not? Am I an attainer of internal Dharma joy? Does this state occur in me or not? Okay. So Dharma joy, that means the beginning of deep focus. Right? Am I an attainer of mental calm? It's the higher jhanas. Does this state occur in me or not? Am I an attainer of insight into states relating to wisdom? Does this state occur in me or not? Right? So the last part is when after meditation, do I reflect on impermanence? Okay. So this is a summary of Buddhist practice. But also, if a monk while reviewing does not see any of these wholesome states in himself, then I also desire and effort and industry and perseverance and persistence and mindfulness and full awareness beyond measure should be cultivated by that monk for the sake of attaining all these wholesome states. In simple terms, this monk must be really diligent to make sure clear away the negative thoughts, then this clear mind. Now, then the sutta closes with Sariputta giving the parable of the burning head. Okay, it's near the ending of it. Also, just as one whose clothes are ablaze, whose head is ablaze, would cultivate desire, effort or industry, perseverance, persistence, mindfulness of full awareness beyond measure, to extinguish that blaze on his clothes or his head. Even so, we should, after examining our mind, deal with the negative states. In simple terms, it means the moment you notice something negative, immediately push it away, like this fire burning on your head. You immediately want to put it out. You notice greed, notice hate, notice delusion, let it go. The faster you let it go, the easier to deal with it. But also, if while reviewing the monk sees only some of these wholesome states in himself, he does notice there are wholesome states but not many, then having established himself in those wholesome states that he sees in himself, then also desire, effort and so on, all the diligence should be directed to cultivate the remaining wholesome states which are not yet achieved. Right? So let's say you overcome greed, now you've got to work to overcome hatred, delusion. Okay? And then Sariputta again goes on to the same parable. It says, also just as one whose clothes are ablaze, whose head is ablaze, he would at once, with every effort, put out the fire, remove the flame, put it out. So too, we must exert that effort to make sure we push away negative thoughts, negative ideas, negative emotions in our mind. Then finally, the sutta closes. But also, if while reviewing, the monk sees all of these wholesome states in himself, then also, having established himself in all these wholesome states, he should further his effort devoted to the making an end of the influxes. In other words, if all these are clear, then the next step is to work towards being an arhat, fully awakened. So this advice to the monks. So for lay people like us, of course, we work towards strengthening, at least towards overcoming negative state of mind. So, in summary, the teaching is telling us, we may not be able to read other people's mind, but we must know our own mind. A kind of self-examination we do during the quiet moments in our day. We just sit, especially after meditation, maybe we just sit quietly and say, okay, how did I go this week? Did I have anger this week? Did I have hatred this week? Did I have desire this week? Did I have delusion? And then you define it, survey the conditions, and then tell yourself, okay, how can I overcome this? And then work towards it. So you apply the 4 matrix. So this is a kind of daily or regular spiritual exercise which we can do, which we should do, at least occasionally, so that we can become truly Buddhist practitioners and become stream winners in this life itself. So the sutta ends there. Alright, any questions or comments? Oh, this is a parable, okay? An idea used to reflect how important the teaching is, right? So here, Sariputta says, imagine if a man is a rich man, he's got very nice clothes, and he also wears a turban. You know what's a turban, right? A head turban, like a hat. But it's burning, you know. If it's burning, you will at once get rid of the clothes or, throw away the turban so that you're safe. So the turban, the fire, represents negative thoughts, greed, hate, delusion. You've got to throw it away immediately. That means clear your mind of negative thoughts immediately, as if it's like the turban is burning, like your clothes is burning. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, so this week a lot of people are not very well, having flu and cough, so we finish early so we can rest. Okay, let's close this with short reflection. Another important teaching of the Buddha is that health is the highest gain. Of all the profits, to have good health is the greatest profit, especially mental health. And mental health is attained best by through wisdom, through peace of mind, through freeing the mind. And this is a very wonderful teaching of the Buddha, found in many places in the suttas, to be at peace with ourselves. This is wonderful good karma, wonderful good teaching, but the power of such karma that may we be empowered and inspired with courage to aspire towards stream winning, at least stream winning in this life itself. And by the same token, with the power of the three jewels, and by all the good that we have done, we send out our loving kindness to all the people here who are working hard to maintain this place. May they be well and happy. To all the people who come here seeking happiness and truth, may they find the true Dharma. And also to our relatives and loved ones and those who have been kind to us, may they be well and happy. And to those who have hurt us, have difficulties with us too, be well and happy. That through their happiness they may see themselves become better people. And for those who are struggling to know the Dharma, who do not yet know the Dharma, may they see the true teaching in this life itself happen. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.